Jack, before the break, though, you intrigued me when you talked about the corporate tax rates. Now it's 16.5%, and this is a corporate tax reduction strategy that's been approved by the Liberals and the government, of course, not in this budget, but it is a trend that has been approved by everybody. Suddenly the Liberals say, no, we're going to jack it up again to 18%. I think the NDP wants to go to 19%. And the Libs are using this increase in the corporate tax rate as their money to keep promising $1 billion here, $1 billion there for anything. They're funding it all on the back of this corporate tax increase. Jack, you said before the break the $6 billion isn't there. Tell us why not.
Well, first of all, there's now 3 different calculations: Department of Finance, the Parliamentary Budget Officer, and my own, that has shown that just assuming no change in behavior, that it's exactly the same corporate tax base, whether you raise or lower the corporate rate.
Right.
So it's called a static revenue cost. It's $4.5 billion, not $6 billion. So the top number is already wrong, and I don't know why the Liberals keep using $6 billion, because it was based on corporate profits at a peak in 2007, which of course was just before the recession hit, and
Sure.
What you'd want to use is more of a kind of an average baseline anyway, and growth in profits. So this number has been done 3 times over, all of us getting a number close to $4.5 billion, and for some reason the Liberals keep pushing $6 billion. So that is wrong right off. It's already a third too high than what's actually true. But the other point that I make is that the way that corporations, multinationals particularly, operate today is that they shift very easily profits around the world. They don't have to move a person or a machine.
Sure.
But through financial transactions and transfer pricing, they can easily move profits from high to low tax rate jurisdictions with punity to the country with high corporate income tax rates. And so in the calculations that I've done, and these are based on a number of empirical studies, not only in Canada that's been done by myself and Michael Smart in the Journal of Public Economics, but also several other European and U.S. studies, that I calculate actually that that if you raise the corporate tax rate 3 points is what the Liberals planned, the only additional revenue that will come to governments is about $100 million. And in other words, it's almost revenue neutral, of which $1.7 billion would be lost to the provinces, because by raising the rate, companies will start shifting more profits out of Canada, and the provinces are going to end up losing. So it's like taking money away from the provinces as well. And the federal government will get some revenue, about $1.8 billion, but that's going to be offset by the loss to the provinces. And there's only one taxpayer in Canada. We just
Sure.
care what all the governments are doing, and so the fact that a corporate rate increase really does very little in terms of revenue, and yet on the other hand, it will have a significant bang on if by raising the rate, we'll lose $50 billion in capital spending over the long run, and we will also lose 200,000 jobs. It's just such a bad policy to advocate raising the corporate rate to 18%.
Does lowering the rate, though, generate more economic activity and more investment? And does the government, in fact, would they make more? Would the take be greater with the lower rate?
Well, what I have shown over the years, but also a number of economic studies have shown that, first of all, if you do lower the rate, you lower the cost of capital, including taxes, and that does lead to more investment. And the calculations I've shown is that by going from a federal rate of 18% to 15%, that we've done already half of that this year, that we will create $50 billion more in investment, and we will also create 200,000 more jobs.
Sure.
So and that is consistent with a lot of economic studies done throughout the world. And in fact, a really good paper that was done analyzing the first round of corporate tax cuts between 2000 and 2005 that the Liberals did actually at that period, and it did have a positive impact on investment. And then in terms of the revenue impacts, goes back to the point I was making, but when you actually look at corporate tax revenues of Canadian governments, we have lowered the corporate income tax rate from 2000, it was at 43%. This is the average federal provincial rate. And we've lowered it to about 28% today. And yet when you look at corporate taxes today, they're almost as high as they were back in 2000, which was a pretty robust economy at that time. And so it just shows you that this income shifting argument, profit shifting argument that I give is, I think, very powerful. And so you don't, I wouldn't say that you get a big increase in revenues, but, or it's just that you don't lose much revenue.
Sure.
That's really my point.
So just to sort of get back, these figures are amazing. You're saying, though, if the rate goes up as the libs are suggesting, and what are they talking about? 1.5, 2 points? I don't know. It's 16.5 to 18?
It's very confusing because it's already been legislated that the corporate rate will fall next year is the last cut, and it's going to go from 16.5 to 15% January 1st, 2012. We've already done 1.5% in January 1st, 2011.
Okay.
The Liberals are talking about going up to 18%. So you are rolling back, or you're raising corporate income tax rates that have been legislated to go down to 15%,
right.
18%.
Okay.
So it is a tax hike.
Clearly it's a tax hike. But you're saying the revenue generated from what they're suggesting so far might be in the range of $100 million, not $6 billion.
That's right. Total federal and provincial revenues, yeah. So
Jack, I'm sure they don't want to hear from you.
No, and well, I've already, I published a piece and several pieces, of course, on this. One is with the school's website when we do our 83 country ranking and our federal provincial roundup last January. But I also wrote an op-ed going through the whole revenue calculation and in the National Post about before the election, anyway. But which was in response to an article that Scott Bryson wrote about the $6 billion. So I just sort of went through carefully all through the calculations to show that there ain't $6 billion. It's just purely fictitious number.
But they're basing all their promises, $1 billion for child care, $1 billion for keeping care of, sick relatives, $1 billion for this, $1 billion for that.
And post-secondary education.
Post-secondary education?
Here's the interesting part. They want to subsidize students to take post-secondary education, which, by the way, I don't disagree for low-income people. I think I actually support that policy. But I'm not sure about doing it for everybody, but I do like the idea of making sure that low-income people do have access to post-secondary education. But you also want people to get jobs when they graduate. Yeah. And if you're hiking corporate income taxes, that's not the way to create jobs.
Right.
To hire all those students that are going to get post-secondary education.
Absolutely.
So it's a policy that makes absolutely no sense. The Irish figured this out. A number of other countries figured out that what you need to do is you need to have policies that increase the supply of skilled workers coming into the workforce, but you also need policies that increase demand for those skilled workers. And that's where they've used the business tax system as a way of trying to leverage more jobs for the skilled workers in the economy.
Jack, listen, thanks for talking to us today. You made clarity out of a confusing situation. Thanks, Jack.
Okay, my pleasure.
Good to talk to Jack Mintz, Director of School Public Policy, University of Calgary. Wow. I mean, just wow. I wonder if the big media is going to be reporting all that.